am now. All right. So another thing I kind of wanted to hit on that I saw when I was flipping through your feed leading up to this podcast today is you had you put together a seminar. Maybe it was a live seminar about establishing a flow with the body, specifically for bio. I think is what that was about. And I noticed, I don't know if it's the majority of your process, but I see a lot of Sharpie drawing on your page. Are you mostly always freehanding? Are you? In what cases do you stencil, or how often does that happen? What's your process? Just go through that a little bit.
It's easy. Whenever I do something that I haven't done before, whenever I try something new, I like to. Well, I always start with a freehand drawing, and I just want to spend some time with a client, figuring things out. I used to be a lot more OCD with that kind of stuff, where I would like do just a body map, just map out where's my elbow, where's that little knuckle bone, where's that little bone up there, and then I map all of that out. I measure it, I take a transfer, scan the transfer, and then I do the whole drawing in Photoshop, and go totally crazy on it, render the whole thing in color and everything, make a line drawing on top of it, print it, stencil it, do all of that. Takes me 2 or 3 days just to get to that point, which awesome. And you, like, again, I can't do that because I'm working in this kind of environment where I have the time for it, because I don't have to make money every day. Mm-hmm. So that enabled me to, go above and beyond with those initial designs. But nowadays, unless I'm not trying to do something that I haven't done before, something that is very fresh for me, or something that I haven't done in a long time, I like freehanding and just going from there. I feel, because I've done a lot of that pre-rendering, I feel like I'm pretty efficient in finding my flow and finding my lines directly on the body. Stuff just looks better if you don't take the transfer and then put it through Photoshop and then transfer it back on, even though I was pretty good at doing that. Now I like to, I have one right here. I don't know if you can see that. So this is a transfer.
Oh yeah.
That I took off of an arm, so I make like that's the, what is it? Clavicle attachment to the shoulder. And then you have the front armpit and the left, and there's an elbow, and then you have that little knuckle here, and any pre-existing tattoos I put on there, and that'll help me to put on the stencil exactly as it was later. Mm-hmm. And then I just do like a very, very simple sketch, take a couple of photos, and then I do a lot of stuff in Photoshop. And even if it's just doing the line drawing in Photoshop, it's my medium. I like doing it that way. Mm-hmm. But it's tedious, and there's no client there with me, so that there's not a lot of pressure for me to perform and actually work fast and get it all out as fast as I can. If there's a client breathing down my neck and waiting for me, I find it a lot easier to actually get work done, because that's the downside of all this environment, right? There's not a lot of pressure. And I feel like I thrive on that a little bit. So sometimes I just get my clients in here to just hang out with them while I draw, if they're up for doing that. And that really, it makes it a more personalized experience. And I'm pretty chill with my clients, so I don't really find it a problem. Most people don't like it. Most people don't want to have that situation. But I don't really mind.
Do you find that spending time with the client as you're doing the drawing, does that time with them influence the drawing at all? Do you tend to change the types of marks that you make, or approach it based on their personality? I mean, obviously you're making it based on their visual, like their appearance, but based on their personality as well?
I would, I mean, like, one thing that has established itself over the years is that I really like spending some time with my clients before the tattoo starts, just to establish that trust too, and get them to actually like me as a person, which, it's a, oh man, it gets so spiritual so fast, which is lame. But the thing is, when I do this kind of work and I hang out with my clients and I do spend a lot of time with them and I give them a tattoo which is very visible. I do mostly sleeves, and they see it all the time. I do like the idea that they have a pleasant memory attached to that tattoo. And I feel like hanging out with me, seeing how the drawing comes together, seeing my struggle too, helps them to appreciate all the work that goes into it. And everybody is so fucking excited, man. Like, people are so excited. They're sitting here. Sometimes I let them watch TV on the side, if there's not much happening. But then every now and then I shoot a question to you. It's like, do you like that? Or do you like me to do it this way? Nothing super technical, but, or it's just like, do you like the shape to look a little bit more aggressive? Or do you like it to be a little bit more rounded? And what's your aesthetic? What do you like better? There's so many ways that you can go with. And I enjoy that because not all of my tattoos look the same. I don't have that kind of Bio-mech style that is a recipe that always looks the same. You can always tell that I've done it, but there's always a lot of the client's persona and character in it. And I really enjoy that. That's one of my favorite parts. It makes it not get boring too, and makes me learn new things all the time, Some people get a little bit too comfortable, that happens. But then I learn something about how to become the guy that gets the kind of respect that is needed for the job, so it's all growth.
What's an example of that? How do you mean people get too comfortable sometimes?
Well, sometimes people start bossing you around a little bit, or people start like, oh, so I can actually be part of this whole thing. I'll change this, change that, and they become a little bit OCD. Some people are a little bit OCD, and it's like, can we change that? And then they're over my shoulder, like really the whole time. And I'm like, hey, and then you have to reestablish some boundaries, and it's almost never a problem. And when it becomes a problem, we have a couple of days. I always sleep on it before we tattoo it. I don't really draw and tattoo on the same day. Even if I'm doing a freehand tattoo, I hardly ever draw and tattoo on the same day. I usually have a setup where they can come back the next day. And then I had an opportunity to sleep on it and see it with a fresh pair of eyes the next day. And then I always make changes every single time. And I don't want to miss out on that anymore.
Yeah.
Because whenever I get a chance to improve on something that is going to be there for the rest of somebody's life, I kind of feel like I have to do that, right?
Yeah. I completely agree with that, and from my perspective, that's why it's so important for me to see tattoos as they settle in, as they heal. I know my clients feel like I'm staring them down when they come back in for maybe the second session after we've like laid out a base layer of whatever it is, and they come in with their lunch and they go to put it in the refrigerator in our kitchen, and I just watch as they move, when they turn, when they stick their hand in the refrigerator, when they pull their arm back out, like how everything moves, how it sits, how it looks from the back, how it looks when their arm is bent. And it's just it's amazing how much information comes to light.
Holding their phone. That seems to be a stance that's very important now. That's just like somebody looking at their phone. That's something that people really do nowadays. So I actually started to design these things. So if I go from a hand to an elbow, for example, I give them like, hold your phone, check your messages or something. I just want to look at that tattoo for a second. And I just make sure that it looks good even in that super stupid like phone holding. It's not really a power stance, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, but it still has to look good even in that, So there's just like, I do the same thing. It's just like I watch them just living life as we take breaks, smoking a cigarette, being on their phone, talking to somebody, using their hands and all of that kind of stuff. I pay very close attention to that for sure.
Yeah. It's funny. Going back to kind of the rules of tattooing and the preconceived notions we all kind of came up with, where you place a tattoo with someone in their most natural kind of anatomical position, and like when you're standing straight up, that's when the tattoo should be whatever I'm trying to say, should be lined up, or should be centered when you're standing in this position. But as we've evolved, I mean, that phone position is a natural position. It's a position you're in probably more than the standing position. So just and especially as you move into large scale work, you're doing a disservice to both you and the client if you're not paying attention to that.
For sure.
Yeah. What we've got a similar setup in that we're trying to create an environment that our clients want to come back to. What do you do, if anything, or what are your thoughts on like pain management, on topicals and things like that? So I know a lot of tattooers that have. I mean, of course, these opinions go to opposite ends of the spectrum. What are your thoughts? How do you deal with pain management for clients?
I think I like to try to get my clients as far as I can without any help. And by any help, I mean like topical anesthetics and that kind of stuff. I think they're a little bit of a false promise most of the time. And once you start applying them, it really goes downhill from there. And I feel like there's something like when you get something that is for life, like, I don't know, like a baby, for example, that stuff is traumatic. Every time it's very, very traumatic, and I think it has to be. I think if those things would come at no price, the value that we attach to them is just not the same. And that stuff has to hurt. It has to hurt a little bit. You have to overcome something, and it'll make the whole... There's, again, spiritual, there's something spiritual to it, where I think that, yeah, it's important, especially when you're getting a large tattoo. Like, this whole environment is made to make everything very intimate and very personal. They're coming to my house, I feed them, I make them breakfast. We have breakfast together, we have coffee together, we talk, we shoot the shit, and we go into the studio and start working. And it doesn't stop there, I try to make my clients as comfortable as they can be. I don't want them to move any muscle as they're down. The head has to be supported in the position that they want to use it. If they're looking at the TV, I have a TV up there that they can watch TV on. I let them use their phone. I don't have any policies to that. Unless it gets annoying, I ask them to turn it down or whatever. So there's a list of things that I do. Do you want the whole list?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, right. So one of the things that is really controversial, let's start with that. I like to wear these while I tattoo. And I like to listen to an audiobook or a podcast while I'm actually tattooing. Now, you'd think that makes it a little bit less personal, while the whole process before was very personal. But I feel that once I've been tattooing them for maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, it's almost around this time, almost every time, where you either take your first break and you feel that people are getting settled into the work, they're getting into the groove a little bit, they know, okay, so this is going to be my day, their body is kind of like producing all the drugs that they need to actually get through that process. Their mindset has changed to a point from like, all right, okay, so this is what we're doing. And once they start settling down, I put these on and I go into my book, and that basically is almost the same as if I would be leaving the room. And they're alone with their pain, with their discomfort. They're alone with whatever entertainment they're giving themselves while they're getting tattooed or meditating or whatever. But I'm basically not in the room. I'm not approachable anymore, so they can't really complain all the time. And it gives them the space to explore the whole thing by themselves alone. It's like if you sitting there with a migraine alone in your house, how much complaining do you really do? I mean, you just deal with it. As soon as there's somebody else, you start moaning around. You just like, all your movements get a little bit more labored. Like, oh, look at me, I'm in pain. Do something, help me, care for me. And once I put these on, that goes away. And it's really good for them because that it helps people, and it also takes away the whole intimate, somebody is very close to my in my personal space kind of aspect that can make a lot of people very uncomfortable. But that is very limited as soon as I put these on too, and so it really helps people, and it helps me to just keep doing what I'm doing for hours and hours, just like grinding, because I get bored. So if I can listen to a book or somebody like an interview or a podcast or whatever it is that I want to listen to, I can do that stuff for hours. I used to smoke a lot of weed just to keep my head in focus, so that I don't get into my thoughts so deeply that I want to start doing something else. And now I don't really smoke weed anymore, and now I just I listen to books a lot. I read while I tattoo, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I do, and it really helps them with their pain management. And that was surprising because I just did it because I just wanted to listen to something. And I always asked, is that okay? And I after a couple of years doing that, or during the first couple of years doing that, I really felt like, man, people deal with shit better. And then I was talking to them to just find out, like, what's going on in your head when I put these on. It's like doing a little bit of science.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do is I have a little heat plate that I put my soapy my squeeze bottle on.
Mm-hmm.
So my squeeze bottle, the soapy water in my squeeze bottle is warm. That makes a big difference. Every time you take a new piece of cloth, they get like this really nice, soothing, warm sensation. And you know what? It just cleans so much better. When you wash your dishes, you use warm water too. It works better.
Yeah.
And it's nice for my hands too. It's just nice. And I always feel like, look, I have like a really expensive tattoo machine in one hand, like top of the line, fucking latest thing in the world, super, super, super cool. And then in the other hand, I'm holding a rag, and I don't really care what's on it, and I don't really care what it is. It's like I'm using really expensive paper towels that are soft and that feel good, and I'm using warm water. So that makes a big difference because every time I'm using a new cloth, they go like, oh. Instead of like, cold, So big difference. Keeps the tension out of the body. Pillows. Having a TV up there where they can easily see it, so they can just look at a TV up there if that's what they want to do. That's a really good one. And just having a table, like putting them down on a bed, instead of having some kind of chair where they're propped up the whole time. I don't want them to use any muscle, and I want to keep them warm. I think you can see it in the background. I have like one of these. This thing, that's a heat lamp, like an outdoor heater.
Oh.
So I can put that on and just put that on them so they stay warm. Makes me a little bit warmer, but then I just tattoo in shorts or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I do, and then. I use Bactine maybe in the last hour just to tickle one more hour out of them to give them a little bit of a break. And that's pretty much it. I don't like using these topical anesthetics, and most of the time I don't need them. I don't really put it out there that that's an option. And when I see people get really uncomfortable and they start having a very hard time, that's when I start using that stuff. Asking them first, hey, do you want? And then they yes. And then the second day, I put it out there. Look, I know now that their Bactine exists, but that is something that I decide when we'll use it, not you. It's just that simple. So that's what I do, and I used to do like 12-hour sessions with people. I can't really do that anymore because of my physical health. Doing this for a long time, but I used to do that without anything, and it works. And there's ways to do that for sure, and it's all about ergonomics.
Yeah. I've never taken that leap. You're the second person that I've heard mention using a bottle warmer or some type of a warming plate for their Nalgene bottles, and that's definitely a harsh so the wiping with the cold water. In fact, I've just got it's ingrained in my brain now. Just as I'm soaking my rag down, I just say cold so that they know that it's coming. But it's like it would be that's such a small thing that would make such a huge difference. It's something I should definitely look into, and the heat lamp as well, although I'm not sure that I get so hot. That's like the curse of tattooing. Whoever's getting tattooed is trembling, and whoever's tattooing is trying not to drip sweat on the person that they're tattooing.
This is very true. There's I do little things all the time, like whenever I turn the voltage of my machine up, I kind of clear my throat so they don't hear that I just did that. So I kind of mask the frequency change of the machine, so that they don't know it's like, oh, something new is happening. Now I should fucking really listen to that pain, see if it's changing. I don't want them to notice anything of that. I just want them to do whatever they're doing. It's little things like that. And I don't stretch a lot. I don't really lean into them a lot. But look, when you're tattooing a butt cheek, like something that is really painful, I put a lot of weight on it. And I feel that it helps them, because like when you have something that is like this big body that vibrates, it's the pain is so big, and a butt cheek especially. I feel if I lean on it, it's almost like when you're playing a guitar and you're hitting the strings, and then you're putting your hand down on the strings, and the tone goes away, right? Like the sustain stops, or like you're holding a bell or something like that. And that it kind of works with pain too. You know, it's like you put a little bit more weight on it so that you can feel the vibration going into your body too. And all the vibration that goes into your body doesn't go into theirs. And they just feel a little bit less pain. It doesn't travel as much. Yeah. So shit like that works. On the neck too, I try to put my hand somewhere so it doesn't travel up, you know, or travel down. So I put my hand somewhere and stretch that way, so it stops where my hand is. And all of that is just through me getting tattooed, basically. And me getting tattooed at my own studio too, which I think is a really cool experience, and people should try it, you know. Just me, myself, sitting in my own chair getting tattooed, you kind of really feel like, oh, what could we improve here? You know, what could we make better? How could this experience be better? And that's how I came up with a warm wash bottle and all that stuff, you know. And
that's a great point. Great point. That what better way to experience what your clients experience than to put yourself through it, because we have a completely different notion in our minds probably of what they're going through, what it's like to lie on your table or your chair for 6 hours or whatever. Close
this door, sorry. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good way to streamline the whole experience, you know. And also for yourself. I mean, you are sitting in that chair like all day, every day for multiple hours. And I certainly know what happens to a body after a couple of years of doing that. You know, my body is shit now, really. And I can't do those 12-hour sessions anymore. Those times are over. And I really have to do a lot to keep myself in shape now. You know.
Where do you find that you're having issues? Back and neck, low back?
Neck.
What? Neck?
No, lower back is fine because I'm short. That's not really a big deal. But my neck, yeah, for sure, because I always have my head at an angle looking at my needle that way, and then you get that disbalance, and as soon as you do this, it goes click, and you're over here, and this gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And I have a little bone spur that in my spine on one of my vertebrae, and it pushes on a nerve, and my arm used to go numb, and that doesn't go anywhere. That's there for life. You know, it's inoperable, so I kind of gotta live with that. So it's all management. I got a sauna, you know, in the house. At some point I put a sauna in the house because I was like, it's just part of my work now. And that's been a game changer.
Oh, really? So, that's helped a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
How often do you use it? Every day after you tattoo, or just? Yeah.
Every like when I'm tattooing, definitely every day and every time I do a workout.
Yeah.
So.
So have you?
Game changer.
Yeah. I've heard that, and I know several people who are doing that kind of hot-cold therapy, the back and forth stuff. Which, whenever I was a kid, I was told that would cause heart attacks. I used to, like, at my grandparents' house, I would go from the hot tub to the swimming pool back and forth, and my grandparents would say, "It'll give you a heart attack."
No, if you have a shit heart, it'll give you a heart attack. But if you do that like for a long time throughout your life, it'll actually prevent heart attacks. I'm sure of that. Yeah, it's really good for your cardiovascular system to do that kind of stuff. So I do sauna. I have a little infrared sauna, and then after that I take a very cold shower, and then I turn the shower to hot, and then I turn the shower to cold, and then that's the thing. And it makes you stronger for sure. I feel so much better. I used to have inflammation all the time. I used to eat ibuprofen for breakfast and for dinner, you know, all the time, and inflammation wouldn't go away. And I haven't taken ibuprofen since I have the sauna, and I don't have any issues.
Oh,
I hardly ever have issues. Like, I don't even feel that bone spur anymore. You know, it's like only on some days when I was an idiot, you know, because you get cocky if you don't feel your pains anymore, right? And then you get cocky, and then you're like, oh yeah, here we are. But
What
it's
is
really
it like a
good.
barrel style sauna? Is it outside or is it in a garage? What size
No, I
is it?
have it actually in my bedroom. It's
Oh.
replaced one of the cabinets. It's not
Oh.
that big. I think it's like let's see in feet. It's like 4 by 4 feet.
Oh. Okay.
The footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 4 by 4, and then it's just like 7 feet high or something.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like an old style telephone booth,
Okay.
kind of like a little bit wider than a telephone booth. It's big enough for two people to sit next to each other, and it's an infrared sauna, so it heats up really fast. It's not that expensive. It's small, modular, and you can just put it pretty much anywhere. And I don't want to live without it anymore. Honestly, it's fucking perfect.
Did
Yeah.
it require a circuit, its own dedicated circuit?
No,
It's not. It just plugs into a wall,
no. Well, I don't
or
know because in Europe we have 220 volts, so
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know how that would go in America,
right.
because you have 120.
Mm-hmm.
But here with 220, it's not an issue. It just plugs right into the wall,
Yeah.
and then you have like all these plates all around you, and they heat up. And after 20 minutes, you can go sit inside, and you'll sweat your balls off
Huh.
for 20 minutes or a half an hour, and then you take your shower. You can do it as many times as you want to. I normally just go once or twice, and
Hmm.
man, you feel good. It's
Yeah.
really, really good stuff.
That's
Super
fantastic.
worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. I didn't mean to get too far off of the tattooing topic. That's just something that I've
No,
been
for sure.
interested
But
in.
I think it's part of
for
the
a while.
tattooing topic because
Sure. Yeah.
we need to treat ourselves too. We want to do this for as long as we can, because once you're in this job, you can really not imagine doing anything else anymore. Like, what else is there? What are you going to do? Um, that is an upgrade. So you need to treat your body great, and not everybody is into working out, working out. So a sauna is a really good passive way to get that cardiovascular system rolling and to get your immune system strengthened, like especially in these times, not a bad idea. And get that inflammation out of your body. And sauna works.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
fantastic. But before we wrap up, I would like to touch on you were talking about how you always are using the newest and best machines, and I saw in your feed that you're using a new Inkjecta, something they've just put out recently. Is that right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what is that? Do you mind sharing a little bit about?
Yeah, it's
I th-
it's the new battery powered Injecta X1.
Mhm.
I'm looking for it. I thought I had it close, but anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, they just put that out, and they sent me one of those. They are sponsoring me,
Mhm.
so they sent me one of those, and I've been playing around with it a little bit. And man, getting back to that whole lines topic, like once you're not tethered to something with a cable, like drawing lines is just completely different. Yeah, again, game changer. That thing is awesome, and
Yeah.
it looks big and it looks heavy and kind of lopsided, but it's really lightweight. I was very surprised by how lightweight it is, um, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Love it.
this is coming back to me now. We had a little bit of this discussion on last week during the critique. We talked about some
Hmm.
battery powered options because I was talking about the cheap Amazon batteries that I've been using that are working
Oh right,
fine.
yeah,
That
yeah, you said
just
that.
like RCA plugins. I had forgotten that we had that discussion. Although not necessarily the people that are watching this watched that, so it's probably good to touch on anyways. So with Injecta, it's a battery pack or it's built into the machine. I can't remember.
It's built into the machine. Let me just grab it because it must
Okay.
be close, and we can keep talking.
Okay.
Must be somewhere because yeah, here. Right. So yeah, it's completely integrated into the machine.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah, I
that's
do
what it
remember
looks
seeing
like.
this now.
It looks a little bit
yeah.
like some kind of Star Wars tank or something.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Super
open
cool.
that up,
Okay.
and then there's the battery.
Ah.
That thing is the battery,
Yeah.
and that's just a spacer. You have the short battery that's a little bit more lightweight, and then you have a longer battery that you can pop in there. That'll give you, I think, 1.5 or just 1 hour more time.
Oh. Okay.
With a small battery, I can work like 3.5 or 4 hours, and with a
Can
bigger
you tell
one, it's
much
more like
difference in the weight or what using the? Do you ever use the small battery?
I only have used the small battery so far
Oh, okay.
because I have small hands.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't think the big battery makes that much of a difference, honestly.
Yeah.
You'll feel it a little bit. I like to throw my machine around pretty fast, especially when I'm shading. I do very fast hand movements.
Mhm.
So you feel the inertia a little bit, like with these very small injectors, they don't weigh shit. They're just plastic, and so is this. It's a plastic machine. It's very, very lightweight for that though. So you still, even with this, you get very, very fast hand movements in the way that I like it. So you can kind of completely forget that you're working with a machine and not with a marker or a brush. So I'm very happy with these machines. They're very, very well put together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, again, this looks big, but
it's pretty lightweight. Yeah.
Tiny hands.
It is. Yeah, it is crazy looking. It does look like it's from the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that battery technology is. I'm with you. I'm not using cords really at all anymore, and don't see myself going back to anything corded. In fact, a few machines that I really like, I'm not able. Like I bought the Dan Cuban Sidewinder, the version 6 Sidewinder a while back, and I really do love the machine. It's great for like I can slow it way down to like 2.5 or 3 volts, and like you have to kind of kickstart it, but you can like whip. Like pepper whip, where it looks like you're doing pointillism or dot work, but you're not at all, and it's super fast. But I can't hook it's on a clip cord. I'm sure I could rig some type of conversion from the clip cord to the RCA where the battery pack was hanging off of it.
Sure,
but I just basically I just quit using it just because I'm not willing to clip a clip cord anymore, I guess.
Yeah, there's always like this kind of balance that you're looking for, right? And with this, I mean, I can redesign my whole workstation now. I don't need a power device on it anymore. So I basically what I want to build now is just something that is standing on I just want to have like a steel pipe with a very heavy base that sits on the floor that I can roll around, that is on casters that I can roll around, and where you have an arm that just can be suspended over the client, where I have some ink caps on there, and I have my paper towels on there, and my little heater with a Nalgene bottle, and that's it. So I just have like a little ink butler that sits exactly over where I'm tattooing, and I can just dip like that, like anywhere. So it's something that reaches over the bed and over the client, so I can get my ink very, very close to. So this is going to actually speed my work up quite a bit, and not having to bend and reach all the time. You basically just have to do this. So that's been a dream of mine, and having a power supply and all kinds of stuff attached to it just kind of made that a little bit more cumbersome. I don't know. And now I want to design something like that and get a buddy of mine to actually weld something for me.
Yeah, I'm using something that basically serves that function, but it's not a post from the ground. It's called the ink arm. Have you heard of that? The ink arm?
Yeah. It's
but
made
it basically
from plastic, right?
Mine is steel. It's really heavy. That's the downside to it. Is it will put you over the weight limit if you're trying to travel with it. But I bought it for conventions specifically. But I ended up using it in my home studio. It basically has a vise that clamps to any table, or leg of a table surface, and then it's like an articulating arm that can straighten or pull out. And it basically has a tray, just 4 kind of powerful magnets, and you can use any type of tray. It comes with a small slender tray, which is about I think what you're talking about. But you could use like a full baking sheet or a cookie sheet if you wanted to. Large. Awesome. It just snap it on. But yeah, but it doesn't come from the ground. Mine doesn't. It clips on. But it's I bought it specifically for conventions because when I do tattoo at conventions, I'm always backwards, and I wanted, like you're saying, I'm trying to find ways to keep my setup right there in front of me. I did that, and along with that, I bought a chiropractic table that is an electric. It's 36 inches wide and really long, and it's on big casters, and it's got foot switches, and it's fully electric, so I can stand up and lift someone all the way to my height, so I can stand and work like this.
That's awesome.
It's really fantastic. It was pretty expensive, but just to your point about the sauna, it's just you get to a point where it's like I can't afford to lean over anymore.
Fuck it, we've been doing this for a while now. We might as well just treat ourselves to some perks every now and then. It makes your work so much easier, honestly.
Yeah.
And for me, with this thing now too, is like not having a clip cord cable, not having a cable that leads to your power supply, not having a foot switch. There's no cable on the ground anymore. I have these lamps, these guys, and they're just suspended from the ceiling, so I don't have any cable on the ground anymore. I have no cables on the ground. You know how awesome that is?
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's
it's fantastic.
So much better. It's like the only cable now that I need is the one to actually heat up my Nalgene bottle, which is weird because nobody else has that.
Yeah.
You know, that's my only cable now. So yeah, I'm so stoked.
Yeah, that's awesome. One final thing, and then I'll wrap it up. You teaching your seminars. I noticed a few people asking if you were going to make any of them available online. What role is teaching playing in your life right now? Is it something you're trying to do more of, or just as kind of a you are?
Yeah, I love talking about. I mean, just I learned by teaching myself, just by using everybody as a sounding board, basically. Whenever I try out something new, talking about it, that's always how I've done anything. And I like talking, you know. I do like it, and I've had really good feedback from my seminars, and that's definitely something that I'm going to pursue more and more in the future. Now with this Corona crisis, I don't really know what that's going to look like in the future. If I'm going to make it more online, or if I'm going to put together something that is can be purchased. But I really like doing it in person. I like having people in front of me. I really like people in general. I'm not a people hater at all. I like having people around me and close to me, and having that interaction where I'm not the only one talking, but where I can also ask questions, or where questions can be asked. And my ex-girlfriend Kaya and we were planning a weekend in Montana just before this crisis started. We couldn't make that happen, where we actually had a whole weekend with people that we could take and do a nature walk with them, take them into the forest, and talk about, taking pictures for reference, talking about, what do we see here? How do we find good composition in nature? What does it look like? How can we crystallize that out, and then take that into the classroom and turn it into art, let's see everybody's photos. Like, how would you turn that into something that you could actually use on as reference for a tattoo or for a painting, and then we would work with them towards that and teach flow, teach composition, and everything with a Bio-mech backdrop, but not really all about like for Bio-mech artists specifically. But I think just as traditional tattooing can teach you a lot about all kinds of tattooing that you should know, I think there's something about Bio-mech which might be on the opposite end of the spectrum, might be the alpha to the omega there. There's definitely a lot there that can teach you something about tattooing that might be very unexpected. And there's always truth somewhere between the alpha and the omega, right? And it pays off to know both of these things in order to be able to navigate between the boundaries there. And I think Bio-mech is a good boundary to have, to that's how far you can push it, the abstract, the very abstract, the very painterly, the very experimental, and all that stuff, as opposed to the very traditional and the very down to earth. So it's nice to have these opposing things to learn from. That's well said. I completely agree. And back to your point when you started that, there's nothing like saying something out loud in front of people to make you question whether or not you actually believe what you've always thought. You know what I mean? Sometimes I have these ideas in my head and I know that they're true, and then when I say them out loud to someone, or I answer a question in a particular way, and then I go like, well, why do I think that? Is that real, or is that just something I adopted from someone else? And there's I don't know what it is about 100%. Saying it out loud and watching people's reaction for you to really have to look yourself in the face and go, hold on, let me take that part back. Let me think about that a little bit longer. Right. Yeah. And doing that in front of people is also such a humbling, humanizing experience that I think it's just so nice that to make these connections with people, and then they perpetuate that in a completely different way than if they would have just, seen that between watching stand-up and porn online,
Right.
So it's just something very, very different.
Yeah,
Different
absolutely.
kind of way to get your information out there.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think I'm going to wrap this up. It's probably gone a little bit longer. If people want to keep up with you, what's the if they want to reach out to you? Keeping up with you is we'll link to what is Lux Altero? I don't know what that means.
At Lux Altera, that's my Instagram, and that's still the best way to keep up with my stuff, to reach out to me, to get in touch with me. I don't really update my website at the moment. I'm just too fucking lazy. I don't know. There's just I don't get a lot of feedback from my website, so there's just not much that I'm doing about it. So Instagram
Okay.
all the way.
It's
I
the
don't
best
really do
way.
Facebook anymore. It's all Instagram at Lux Altera.
Yeah.
And,
What is that term? I don't know the term Lux Altera.
Oh, it's Latin. It means different light, because I always like to surprise people with putting stuff that they think they know and then just turning around, showing it to them in a different light.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I love that.
you know, back in the day, I was very cocky and arrogant, but I still like the name.
I still do like the name, and it's still kind of what I do, so it still fits. And yeah, I'm still pretty happy with that. It's at Lux Altera, LuxAltera.
Cool. And we'll make sure to link to that. And hopefully one day we can actually have a drink and do this in person. This is a lot of fun, I'm much more of a fan of podcasting in person than staring at a screen.
Yeah,
But,
same here. That would be very rad. I'd love
Yeah.
it.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for taking the time. And thank you guys for supporting what we do. And we'll see you next time. Hey, thanks again for watching. Please be sure to like and comment and subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with all of the things that we are doing. If you would like to buy us a drink, please support us on Patreon. There's a button somewhere around here that allows you to do that. You can also visit our website and subscribe to our newsletter so you know where we're headed and what we're doing. And while you're there, please check out our merchandise page. Buy yourself a fancy new Fireside t-shirt. Thank you for supporting the Fireside Tattoo Network, and we'll see you on the next episode.